you've now experienced a week or two of COVID testing and just kind of this new normal, if you will. How much, if any, thought did you give to opting out, and what are your impressions of how this system is or isn't working?
How much consideration have I given to opting out? I gave it a decent amount, knowing that I won't be able to have my family there and travel to games is everything. So I do it for them. So that was unfortunate, but at the end of the day, after talking with my family, they were completely understanding of them not being able to make it to football for a year, maybe two, depending on how everything goes. I think the system we have really works with the contact tracers that we wear and the everyday testing. It really reassures that even though we're wearing masks all the time throughout the building and stuff like that, you know that everyone else in here has tested negative up to this point.
Stephen, Jonathan Alexander with Charlotte Observer.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
So in knowing that, is that what ultimately came down to you deciding you wanted to play, or were there other reasons that made you feel comfortable?
Figuring out the logistics of it, even though we found out kind of late as the players, once I figured out how we were going to do it, then I was perfectly fine with it. But I had already made the decision before the logistics came out. It was trusting that the people who were put in place as experts on how to control the potential spreading of the virus amongst us as an organization, it was about me trusting that those people were capable and competent in doing their jobs. So I'd already made the decision before I actually read the plan or even got to experience it.
Stephen, David Newton with ESPN.com. Good to see you. You played on good defense at Minnesota. Curious, what about this defense that you've seen so far, the pieces it has, what's the potential of it, and is the potential to be good right away?
Yeah, sky's the limit. Coming out here, you just only hear players from being on another team, but being able to come out here and see how these guys work and see how they prepare day in and day out, and the level of proficiency that we're showing with a brand new defense for everyone, I'm really liking it. Our level of communication, our ability to understand how one another plays is everything. And so I think it's going to be a really good defense, and I think we're going to be able to execute early on.
Stephen, Josh Graham, Sports Hub Triad. On that note, you dealt with terrific pass rushers at Minnesota, and you had Linval in the middle of that D line. So I'm just interested, what have you seen, your early observations of Burns on the edge, Gator, and the other young guy on that D line, Derek Brown?
I see very similar freakish style abilities in regards to body awareness and body control that D has back in Minnesota, in regards to speaking of Burns, right? And so he very much knows how to use his body, how to position his body to get past the tackle for pass rush. In the run game, he may not look overly big, but he's very strong, very confident, and plays behind his hands. So he sets good edges. And then DB Derek Brown, he's big. Like, I'm big, but he's big, and he does not move like he's big, which is always a great thing. So once again, learning how one another plays, that's what's going to determine how well we play as a defense, because we definitely have pieces. Believe that.
Mike Solarchi here with Spectrum News. Question for you regarding going back to the COVID testing and whatnot. Have there been conversations amongst the players about maybe tightening up their own personal bubbles? I know that there are a lot of restrictions in terms of being able to go out and dine and get a drink and all that sort of thing. I know that it's not really the talk right now during camp, but guys really have to maybe tighten their circles to not put themselves in jeopardy, because if they end up coming down with it, they could spread it around the room. Is that a conversation you guys have had?
No, only because that conversation would have already been had before we even stepped in the door day one. Once you've gone through your own personal opt-out journey and you decide to stay and play football, at that moment, you've also agreed to tighten down your circle, like you're saying, to not go out, to get more food delivered to you, to have your groceries delivered to you, that for the next 6 months during football season, it's going to be a really small circle. So no one really here has been talking about it because everyone's been living it. That's why I believe today we learned that we're one of, I learned at least today, we're one of like single digit teams that hasn't had a potential case amongst the players, right? So we're all living it. So no one's really talking about it.
Hey, Stephen.
It's a process.
Skylar Callahan here with Sports Illustrated. You kind of got your feet wet over the last couple of seasons in Minnesota. What were you able to take from those last 2 years and move on to this expanded role here in Carolina?
It's learning how to play defenses and finding the commonalities between offenses. Every offense pretty much runs the same plays with window dressing. So it's taking everything I've seen over the last 4 years and compartmentalizing it and then giving that information out to the rest of the guys on the D-line. Because you don't have to be the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest if you know where you need to be, right? And so let's imagine if you knew where you needed to be and you were the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest, then you start to go into a really good place as a player on an individual level. So for me, it's about trying to spread as much wisdom that I've collected over the last 4 years to all the young guys here, and even some of the older guys too. If they ask.
I know that you've been playing more of a rotational role earlier on in your career, but now that you are with Carolina, how excited are you to potentially play a bigger role, and do you feel like you have something to prove with that?
Yeah, I'm super excited to come out here and legitimately fight for a spot, a bigger, more expanded role. And I do feel like I have something to prove. Every time I step on the field, just at least on my individual battle, showing that for this one rep, I'm going to dominate and do what I have to do better than the man across from me. But yeah, I feel like I'm ready to go out there and show what I got for sure.
Hey, Stephen, Josh Klein from the Riot Report. Hope you're doing well. I noticed in some of the photos from the walkthroughs that you're wearing goggles. Are those prescription, or are they for COVID protection? What's going on there, or just for looks?
I like that last one. Yeah, COVID protection. Nah, they're prescription lenses. Just like these, I have pretty bad eyes, so I have those in their transition lenses to keep the sun out of my eyes for the stigmatism. But then also COVID protection.
Where did you kind of learn about those for COVID? Was that something that you thought about, or was it just kind of a happy coincidence?
I know I didn't want to wear contacts because I've lost a contact in a game and it's very uncomfortable. So I made a decision I'm going to wear goggles probably midway through the off season. And then once COVID went into full gear, and I was like, yeah, I actually have another way to protect myself from sweat, because in the defensive line, you're always going to bang and hit head to head with offensive linemen, and the sweat always gets in each other's helmets. So I'm just fortunate that I picked that.
Stephen, Scott Fowler from the Charlotte Observer. Nice to see you. You
Hello.
strike me as, how are you? You seem to be a deep thinker about a lot of issues. So I wondered if you're going to wear one of these social justice decals this year, and just in general, if you could speak to kind of the continuing impact of the Black Lives Matter movement right now.
Yeah, I am going to wear a decal. The one I would wear is a variation of Black Lives Matter, and just put like all Black Lives Matter. Especially given my standing and where I am in the community. Oftentimes when I'm met with people, my life has been validated because of what I do, because I play for the Panthers and I'm a professional athlete. So people see value, see worth in me as an individual. But when people don't know what I do for a living, I get treated differently. And it shouldn't take what someone does, or when you learn who they are, for them to then deserve to be treated fairly. And so that's something that I definitely want to echo. And that's a real thing that happens, that a lot of people in this world will see me and see what I do and think that I'm an amazing person, or then might give me value. But then my cousin, my mom, my brother, all aren't, because they don't do what I do for a living. So that's why I would wear a decal that says all Black Lives Matter, not just the ones you root for.
Stephen, Ashley Mahoney with the Charlotte Post. To carry on to that point, do you feel that there's a stigma, particularly for Black men in this country, where the only way to quote unquote success is if you make it to the NBA or the NFL?
I feel like for a long time it's been like stereotyped. There's only a handful of ways to make it out. And I feel like as someone that is successful, not only in sports, but also off the field, it's partly my job to show the next generation that you can succeed in a multiple different ways. But yeah, it feels like that's the only way until you show the next generation that there are different ways, and you talk about it and you make it okay, and you don't condemn those who may think differently and be a quote unquote like a nerd. We call them black nerds. Back before it was cool to be into like anime and cartoons and stuff like that, I was one of those kids, but now it's like highly celebrated. So it's like that. It's a slow evolution, and to say like there's bigger, there's more than one way for you to be successful. It doesn't have to be a microphone or a ball. So yeah.
Hey, Stephen.
Answer the question.
Go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
Yeah, David Newton again. I wanted to ask you, during all the COVID, have you picked up another instrument, and if you did, or what song would you write about this whole time?
I did not pick up another instrument. I did pick up gardening. I have a yard now, and I've already killed the grass twice. So that's what I've been doing a lot of, just learning about grass. But if I was to write a song right now, I think I would write a song about like deep reflection. Because if you look on social media, about like 3 months into like lockdown, everyone's posting these like, been thinking about my life and everything's different. And like after deep soul searching, I'm now this new individual. So I was like, wow, everyone's going through like metamorphosis all around. So if I was going to be an artist and write a song, it would be about transformation.
Hey, Stephen, this is Deshawn with Channel 9. I hope you are doing well. At that point, what have you discovered about yourself in that deep reflection?
That I need, when life turns back around, I need more friends. I've been like very isolated. I'm an only child, so I'm used to like being in my own bubble. That it's okay to celebrate the successes along the journey with people. So I pretty much just put my head down and just go. And then if it's not family or like really, really close people who I would consider family, I don't make time for. But I need to learn how to make more time for other people and just be more inviting of my own like personal time and stuff like that.
To follow up, I was going to ask, how do you navigate that desire in the virtual world where there's not as much person-to-person contact?
I don't do it face to face, but I do call more people. I FaceTime more friends that would have been more of like an acquaintance last year. So taking that time to be more involved in my friends' lives to truly be a really good friend.
Anything else for Stephen?
I actually do have a football question. With what your defense has been going through, and I know this is a slower, longer ramp up, but you guys looking at the offense and what they're bringing, how different is this slower ramp up, and what are you seeing from your offensive teammates in practice that makes you think, okay, we know how to stop these guys, but other teams may struggle?
I'm personally, as a defensive guy, really enjoying the slower ramp up because everything's new to me. So we get to take time and have days that are emphasized on just communicating, right? And how we play through fits and things of that nature. So the slower ramp up period is right up my alley. So it helps iron out mistakes. And our offense is multifaceted, and I think it's going to be a handful to stop, honestly.
Hey, Stephen. I have one more quick one just to follow up there. Mm-hmm. How much does the slower ramp up help all the rookies and the young guys you have on this defense that are kind of learning about each other and learning how to be in the NFL?
Oh, everything, man. If I was a rookie, I would be so grateful to whatever football God allowed this, because when I was a rookie, when we installed, it was like a third of the playbook, a third of the playbook, a third of the playbook, and we're only on day 5 of training camp, and he could call anything in there. So to have your head spinning like that while also reading your key is a classic thing we like to see rookies do. When like they make the call and someone goes in motion, they go, and then they point and they finally make the call. But because it's a slower ramp up, we're introducing things a lot slower, so they're able to make communication to be more confident in their ability to communicate. But every once in a while, they have the classic rookie mess up, and we still get a chuckle in. But it's helping the rookies a lot.
Hey, Stephen, David, one more time. I want to ask you, what do you think about the conferences talking about not playing college football?
Smart, because it's about player safety. And if they push it back, they could push it back to the spring if they work out better logistics in regards to testing and possibly just following the same template that NFL teams are using, just on a much larger scale.
Stephen, Mike Solarte again. It sounds like you're almost missing the option, the opportunity to see the rookies kind of have their heads swim a little bit during practice.
It's like a welcome to the league moment, but you know, it'll come.
Anything else for Stephen, guys, or are we good?
One thing, Stephen, you know, I think this election is something that might be important to you in trying to vote and all those different things. Just why is voting so important to you, and what do you think of the Panthers initiative that has already started?
Voting is important to me because you can't have long-lasting change unless you have legislation that reinforces that or protects your rights. And so that's why it's important to me. It took me way too long to learn that. But now I have, and now I think it's important that other people know that as well. And so for the Panthers to also feel the same way and to help us get out there and get everyone in the Carolinas to understand the importance of voting really speaks a lot to the organization. But yeah, it is important. We here believe it's important, so we're going to do what it takes to make sure everyone's properly informed on it.
Stephen, thanks so much. Media, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Stephen.
Cool.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good one.